Hi. Welcome back to my channel. As you all know, we are vlogging Sign of Ikshvaku, and today we shall start chapter 13. Let's read.
Roshni was found dead. Bharat was stunned. Lakshman and Shatrughan were crying. Manthara was holding her dead daughter's body. She had a vacant expression on her face. Roshni was tortured to death. She was gang raped. Her dead body was found lying next to the Sarayu River by Manthara's men. Her assistants were brutally killed. One of the assistants was still alive and the doctors tended to him. Ram had questions that needed to be answered. When Roshni didn't return the next morning, Manthara had sent out men to look for her. Roshni was gang raped. There were marks on her wrist and she was tied to the tree. There were vicious bite marks and bruises all over her body. The monsters who tortured her had ripped off skin on several places. She was beaten with a blunt object all over her body. Her face was torn on one side, from mouth to cheekbone. There were blood clots in her mouth, and there were semen stains all over her body. Acid was poured down her throat, and she died in a gruesome way. When the assistant woke up, Ram growled, "Who are they?" The doctor said that he is still unable to speak. Ram repeated his question. The assistant barely could say anything and passed out once again. Roshni was popular among the masses, across the classes. She had devoted her entire life to charity, and people envisioned her to the fabled Kanyakumari, the virgin goddess. This brutal incident enraged the public and they demanded retribution. Ram's police force was fast. They quickly rounded up the criminals from the Isla village just before they were trying to escape. The chief was beaten black and blue when he tried to protect his son. All had suffered due to Dhenuka. The investigations were made, the case was presented to the judge, and sentences were delivered in recorded time. All were sentenced to death, all except Dhenuka. Ram was furious. This heinous crime had only one answer: maximum punishment. But Dhenuka was exempted on a legal technicality. He was underage. Law could not be broken, not on Ram's watch. Ram the lawgiver had to abide by the rules. But Ram, the Rakhi brother of Roshni, was guilty, unable to avenge for his sister. Ram was sitting alone on a chair in the balcony of his private study, contemplating about Roshni and looking at the golden thread tied on his wrist. His eyes were brimmed with tears. His eyes fell upon his injured right hand. He picked up a wedge of wood. It has a smouldering tip. He looked up at the sky and apologized to Roshni, and then pressed the burning wood on the inner side of the right arm. He didn't flinch. The acid smell of burning flesh spread through the air. He said, "I'm sorry," and tears flowed freely down his cheek. An hour later, Lakshman entered Ram's office, furious. "This is wrong, Dada." "It is the law, Lakshman, and law cannot be broken. It is supreme, important than you or me." Ram was choking on his words. He just could not spell Roshni's name. Bharat strode into the room. "Finish your sentence, Dada. Finish what you are going to say." He was furious, his hands trembling. He was unable to convey the storm inside of him. Ram was trying to calm him down, but Bharat screamed, "Let it out! Tell us that your damned law is more important than Roshni." There were tears flowing down Bharat's eyes. "Say it! Say that it matters more to you than that rakhi around your wrist." Ram was trying to calm Bharat down and said that the law is clear. Minors cannot be executed. Dhenuka is underage, and by the law he will not be killed. "To hell with the law!" shouted Bharat. Because this was injustice. Everybody knew that the monster deserved to die. Ram agreed that yes, he does. But this is law. A juvenile cannot be killed in Ayodhya. Bharat screamed and banged his hand on the table. And all of a sudden there was a loud boom from behind. Rajguru Vashisht was standing at the door. Bharat immediately folded his hands. Lakshman refused to react. His anger was now focusing on Rajguru. Vashisht walked in a slow-paced manner and said that Ram was right. The law needs to be respected and obeyed. Bharat questioned that what about the promise they made to Roshni? It was our duty to protect her, and we failed. But now we must avenge her. The Guruji said that Bharat's words and promises are nothing above the law. Bharat then again said that the descendants of Raghu never break their words. Vashisht then explained that if your word of honor conflicts with the law, you must choose law and break your word, even if it dishonors your name. This is dharma. Lakshman was losing it. He was losing all semblance of propriety and control. All of a sudden, Vashisht walked up to Ram. Ram had an archer's band tied around his right hand. He tore it off and raised his arm for all to see. Bharat and Lakshman were shocked. The inner arm of Ram was badly burnt, charred and discolored. He had been doing this again and again since the day Dhenuka got to escape. He has been punishing himself for having broken his word to Roshni, but he will not break the law. All the 7 rapists were executed. Ram did not attend the execution. The judges were angry for not being able to put the main accused to death. So they decided to bring some changes to this execution. While Ram's new law on execution said that they need to be hanged by the neck till death, and that the execution be carried out in a designated area of the prison premise. The judges decided to go for an exceptional procedure. They would carry out the execution in public, and they would bleed to death. It must be as painful as it can be. The police had to obey the judges. The execution platform was outside the city walls, built to a height to make it visible even from a distance. Thousands gathered. Many came armed with eggs and rotten fruit as missiles. When the 7 convicts were out in the light, the crowd gave an angry roar. It was visible that these 7 were already beaten mercilessly in prison. The desire for retribution was strong. Ram couldn't control anybody's anger. The guard took the criminals up on the platform. There were wooden pillories erected on a post, with holes where the head and hand were inserted. The prisoners were secured, and it was a queue for the public to throw missiles. With unerring accuracy came eggs and rotten fruit, and these ended up drawing blood and was causing tremendous pain. The crowd was prohibited to throw anything sharp, and they agreed because they didn't want these criminals to die so quickly. They wanted to see them suffer. This went on for an hour. The executioner finally came and slowed everything down. The first convict was in terror. Two assistants came, stretched his legs to the maximum, making him choke. The executioner picked up a large nail and a hammer. He calmly nailed the foot of the convict into the platform, hammering in rhythmic precision. The convict was screaming, but the executioner was satisfied. He repeated this horror, convict after convict, nailing their feet to the wooden platform. Each cry made the crowd happy. He again went back to the first convict. Some medicine was forced down his throat. He was slapped till he was awake. The convict was pleading, "Kill me, please, mercy." The executioner asked, "Did you have mercy on Lady Roshni, you son of a rabid dog?" Sorry, please, kill me." The criminal burst into tears. After 3 hours of brutal public torture, the executioner pulled out a sharp knife. He was going to cut their wrist. He needed to find the right artery, one that would bleed the slowest. He smiled every time he found one. He brought his knife close, cut delicately, let the blood spurt out in small bursts. The convicts groaned. Death was a couple of hours away. The crowd roared and hurled obscenities each time the wrists were cut. It took 2.5 more hours for the last of the criminals to die. Slow, suffering, painful death that would scar their soul for several births. The crowd roared, "Glory to Lady Roshni!" Manthara sat on an elevated chair, eyes blazed with fury. She knew she had to do nothing. Punishment would be right, because Roshni was loved. She had barely blinked through the entire torture. She keenly observed each twitching pain. But she was not satisfied. Her heart has turned to stone. She held an urn close to her chest, Roshni's ashes. A tear fell on the urn, and Manthara said that, "I promise you, my child, that even the last one will be made to pay for what he did to you. Dhenuka shall face the wrath of justice."